order. We will say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Alderman Edwards.
Here.
Alderman Simpson.
Here.
Alderman Turner.
Here.
Alderman Lesko.
Here.
Alderman Canman. Alderman Joe.
Here.
Alderman McMiniman.
Here.
Alderman Tylen.
Here.
Alderman Dove.
Here.
Alderman Griffin.
Here. Okay. The first point of order is the approval of the December 30th, 2013 committee meeting minutes.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The corporate fund monthly cash report for December, we had a beginning balance of $7,696,467. Receipts for the month totaled $7,347,118. Disbursements for the month of December totaled $7,006,900. So our ending cash balance in the corporate fund at the end of December totaled $8,036,685.
Okay. Do we approve this?
Motion for approval?
Motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The chair recognizes Alderman Canman is here. The next item is the Opm Contract Report. And do we have any questions for Director McCarty? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda. Ordinances tabled or remaining in committee. Madam Clerk?
2011-104, 2012-123, 2012-226, 2012-376, 2013-128, 2013-174, 2013-193, 2013-250, 2013-260, 2013-266, 2013-376, 2013-397, 2013-455, 2013-457, 2013-469, 2013-470, and 2013-475.
Mr.
Alderman
Chair,
Simpson.
if I might take 2013-475 out of committee and put it on the debate agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to place on the committee agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any other motions on the items that are tabled or remaining in committee? Seeing none, we will move to the first item for committee consideration. 2013-475.
2013-475 is an ordinance approving the appointment of J. Todd Greenberg as Corporation Counsel.
Move to debate.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for debate. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Greenberg, are you prepared to take some more questions?
Certainly, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, is that microphone ready?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. State your name and your address, please.
J. Todd Greenberg, 1202 Liberty Road, Normal, Illinois.
Alderman Canman, have at him.
I think it was McMiniman.
I know McMiniman's got some, but I know Sam does too. Joe, go ahead. Joe or Sam, I know you both had your ready to roll.
Mr. Greenberg, as you know, we're looking for continuity with our legal counsel. We've had some rough rides in the last few years. Question. If in April of this year you were our city attorney and you heard that there was a plan to amend a collective bargaining agreement that had just been ratified by the city council, and there was a plan, or someone has an idea to amend a collective bargaining agreement, let's say it's the police department the police force collective bargaining agreement, and you heard that this plan involved amending the agreement, not an interpretation change, but a a flat-out amendment. You know, we're changing the wording. We're changing the word 4 to 5, let's say. or 5-4. And you heard about that. You heard about that plan to amend a collective bargaining agreement without the approval of the city council, and as the Mayor Houston said, he knew nothing about it either. What action would you have taken if you'd heard about that and you were our city attorney at the time?
Well, the first thing I'd be doing is asking who is proposing this, what they're thinking of, because there are protocols that go involving, the negotiation of contracts. They do involve, at the very least, consulting with the department head and, in Bloomington's case, of course, that would be the city manager. In Springfield's case, that is the mayor. You check with the chief executive officer of the city to inform them of that. And then you make some inquiries as to whether this is a proposal that is acceptable to the city council, because you can't amend a collective bargaining agreement without the assent of the two parties, the union and the city. And the city ultimately expresses its approval through the vote of the city council.
Thank you. I think that's the answer most of us were hoping to hear. Mr. Chair, I've got a second question, and I've got additional questions, but I'd like to reserve those for next week. We've got a long night, and I'll save some for next week. And I understand you'll be here next Tuesday as well.
That's correct.
A second question. As you know, we live by the consent decree. This city is governed by the consent decree that was executed by then Mayor Houston in 1987. And that's our Bible. We live by it. Now, earlier this year, I asked for our city attorney to draft an ordinance that would require that the city council approve any longevity pay increases for our city employees. We've had some past practice where secret longevity agreements, not by Mayor Houston, but by previous mayors, have been signed in secret that provide for pay increases for our categories of city employees. A longevity pay increase means that if you reach a certain number of years of service, your pay gets bumped up. Now, it so happens that our consent decree says, and we talked about this, you and I talked about this back in December of 2013 in our 1 hour, we met in person for over an hour, 90 minutes I believe it was. We talked about our consent decree has this language in it. Bear with me here for a second. Compensation of non-elected officers and employees. The compensation paid to a non-elected officer or employee of the city shall be an annual salary to be set in the manner prescribed by ordinance. So earlier last year, in the fall, I asked our then acting city attorney, John Mielek, to draft up an ordinance to state specifically that longevity pay increases can only be brought into being by ordinance, not by executive order. And he would not draft up the ordinance. So the question is, would you have any trouble drafting up an ordinance that requires that longevity pay increases be approved by ordinance by the city council?
If it does not conflict with, as you mentioned, basically what the Constitution for the city of Springfield, the consent decree, then no. It's generally you look at, does it violate the state constitution in some way? Does it violate the consent decree in some way? Or does it violate an existing ordinance that has to be amended? Now, of course, the one thing is the collective bargaining agreements, as they apply to longevity, those, by state law, those overrule everything else. But if we're dealing with non-collective bargaining issues, then I don't see from what you've stated that there's anything in the consent decree that prohibits the city council from adopting such an ordinance.
And you focused on it precisely. We're talking about longevity pay increases outside of collective bargaining agreements that were brought into being by executive order. And so would you agree that the consent decree, by its wording, promotes the idea of setting salaries based on ordinance?
Unless there's some definition of compensation in someplace else in the consent decree from what you've read to me right now, I would agree.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Greenberg.
Okay. For the sake of order, is there anyone else who has any additional questions at this time?
Just a
Alderman
brief
Hammond?
follow, thank you. Just a brief follow-up. So to what Alderman McMiniman was asking you, are you saying that it's the law, or is it the law that in order to change a collective bargaining agreement, the agreement must be signed by the mayor of the city of Springfield and ratified by the city council?
Yes, and it also has to be, of course, agreed to by the other side, by
The union,
and
of
it has to
course.
be signed and ratified by the union and signed by them. Correct.
And then I just wanted to thank you for your responding to my email earlier this week. I mean, your response came in earlier this week, and I think you stated that you had reviewed the Attorney General opinion I-9632 on public records, access to community college records by community college trustees, and you, after reviewing that, you stood by your opinion or judgment that you gave us last time that aldermen do not have the right to copies of records and documents that they may need to perform their job. Is that correct?
Well, and what I said was specifically individual copies to each alderman of documents. I didn't say that, access to those documents would be denied. I simply said that as far as providing individual copies of documents and then leaving them to the individual alderman to, publish how they wish is something I would not agree with.
In other words, the alderman would have to go maybe to the corporation counsel's office or to some other office, look at the documents, and then leave without a copy of them. Is that
In cases where it might be particularly sensitive, correct. Obviously, it's not something that would be a carte blanche policy.
all right? Thank you.
Alderman Edwards?
Yeah, I just want to follow up a little bit. It becomes a catch-22 when that happens. If you make it inconvenient to see documents, in essence, you're making it to where aldermen can't have documents. And when we, in the course of our duties, are asked to vote on a specific thing, for example, if you said, I'll give you those documents, you can come to my office anytime, they're available from 8 to 5, that's nice, but I own a company that I run and I'm at work from 8 to 5. In essence, those documents are, in fact, withheld from me to vote, and I'm voting on something I'm just basically hearsaying. So I think there needs to be a way or a mechanism to make those documents available to aldermen, other than just saying, you can't have those unless you come to my office or unless you go here or go there, because a recent case that we just had, you would have had to sit there 4 or 5 hours in somebody's office to wade through these documents to read them without even getting a condensed version or the cliff notes of them. So I think that we, as a council, we as a corporate council, we as a city, need to come up with a mechanism that makes it available, because the Attorney General's opinion, and I'm no attorney, but I think his and her opinion is pretty clear that aldermen have the right to have to see documentation that allows them to fulfill the job duties with which they're supposed to fill. So I do take issue a little bit, and I'm not saying that they ought to be carted out of the building or anything like that, but there ought to be a way that aldermen can have access to documents and made responsible for those documents, so that in the course of us doing our job to represent our constituents, we have to be able to have those documents, see those documents, make notes on those documents, those are the ways that we, in fact, raise our questions. And I understand the attorney-client stuff, but when you're asking us to vote on something that a settlement of 130 or 150 or whatever the number may be, we can't go into that situation blind. So I do take issue a little bit with that.
And just to clarify, I've never, and I didn't make the statement last time that it would only be available Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. I understand that people have day jobs, and it might be either up to me or making provisions to have somebody else from my office be available in the evening and the night, the weekend.
I think it's important to, and I do it all the time when I'm reading something and I come up with a question, I happen to write on that document whether a copy can be made and that copy left and then hand it back to me in the course of a meeting or whatever. But I look around this horseshoe all the time and ink pens are being going because they're writing notes, they need to ask questions. So, I mean, I'll let it go at that, but that's my thought on that, especially after we have an Attorney General's rule that makes it pretty clear that we should have access to those documentation.
Any additional questions for Mr. Greenberg? All right, we have a motion and a second for the debate agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk?
First item is 2014-001, an ordinance authorizing execution of a contract for purchase and sale of real estate between the City of Springfield and Marvin A. Gubin and Bradley D. Gubin in an amount not to exceed $345,000.
Move to the consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-002 is an ordinance authorizing payment to Josephine Zoc Pisani, an Office of Public Utility employee, for settlement of a workers' compensation claim for number 13WC001712.
Move to remain in committee.
Second.
We have a motion to remain in committee. I don't believe we have to make any vote on it whatsoever. Unless someone else wants to make a counter motion, we're going to move on to the next item.
2014-003 is an ordinance authorizing payment to Vernie Blackburn, an Office of Public Works employee, to settle all workers' compensation claims from 2006 to date, including case number 07WC25187.
Move to remain in committee.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to have this remain in committee.
Are we doing a vote this time or not?
You don't need a vote.
Right, I know, but are we voting on a motion to go back to committee?
I don't believe we have to vote on a motion for it to remain in committee.
It's already in committee.
Right.
It's already in committee, so we just do not take action. However, I would like it noted for the next City Council committee, we will want to have an executive session on 2014-003 to ask questions about it.
Noted. 2014-004 is an ordinance to increase the number of Class E liquor licenses by one for Soil Restaurant Systems, LLC, doing business as Dottie's Store Number 5, 3140 West Isles Avenue.
Move for consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-005 is an ordinance to increase the number of Class E liquor licenses by one for Soil Restaurant Systems, LLC, doing business as Dottie's, Store Number 185 at 1861 East Sangamon Avenue.
Move for consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second consent. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-006 is an ordinance to increase the number of Class E liquor licenses by one for Soil Restaurant Systems, LLC, doing business as Dottie's, Store Number 125 at 3335 Freedom Drive.
Move for consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Discussion. This ordinance, like the previous two, involves a company that's setting up restaurants, and they'll have, basically, I guess they, according to Todd Oliver, they promote breakfast and that kind of thing, and each of them is going to have a video gaming license as well, and therefore to get the video gaming, they need to sell beer and wine. And the point, I think we have to consider here is the state law asks the municipalities to consider the proliferation and the density of these video gaming establishments, and at some point this council will have to take a look at that. That's the end of the comment, Chair. Thanks a lot.
Following up on that, if someone could give the city council a list of how many video gaming licenses we currently have in the city, it might be helpful toward that discussion.
Can we also have it by where they're located as well?
Yeah.
Break it down by ward and then have a total.
We can do that for you.
Okay, that would be fine. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-007 is an ordinance authorizing a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $1,520,000 from unappropriated fund balance in the Fiat Alice Complex TIF Fund and authorizing the closeout and transfer of the surplus TIF increment to the Sangamon County Treasurer for the Office of Planning and Economic Development.
Move to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-008 is an ordinance approving 4 separate proposals totaling $92,625 with Stress Engineering Services Incorporated for high-energy pipe inspections and low-energy pipe inspections at the Dahlman Power Station for the Electric Division for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-009 is an ordinance authorizing a 3-year agreement with Ascend Performance Materials Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of 50% dibasic acid and adipic acid in an amount not to exceed $1,479,000 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-010 is an ordinance accepting and authorizing execution of a contract with Airgas North Central Illinois Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $757,682 for the purchase of hydrogen and the rental of low-pressure storage tanks for the Dahlman Generating Station for a 5-year term for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-011 is an ordinance accepting bids and authorizing the execution of contract UE 141176 backfill materials with P.H. Broughton & Son Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $200,000 for the administrative services, electric and water divisions for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-012 is an ordinance accepting bids and authorizing the execution of contract UW 141178 Quicklime for the water purification plant for a 1-year term with Mississippi Lime Company in the amount of $733,872 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-013 is an ordinance accepting the bid and authorizing execution of contract UW 141173 powdered activated carbon with SP Carbon Supply LLC doing business as Standard Purification in an amount not to exceed $175,770 for the Water Division for the Office of Public
Move
Utilities.
to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Real briefly, Chair, this ordinance, like many of the previous, indicates that City Water, Light, and Power has contracted prices or amounts much reduced from the prior year or years, and so just wanted to say nice going to City Water, Light and Power. This particular contract, for example, last year was $175,000, and this year it's $128,000 for the same, roughly the same product or the same commodities. Thank you, Chair.
That's actually
That's
backwards.
Did I say that backwards? Thank you, Alderman Lesko.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-014 is an ordinance regarding the variance request of Section 153.157L pertaining to restriction of access in Calvary East Subdivision, located east of 2nd Street, north of Hazeldale Road, west of 6th Street, and south of Southern View Park for the Office of Public Works.
Move to the consent agenda for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for consent. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-015 is an ordinance regarding the variance request of Section 153.158B2 pertaining to lot arrangement in Calvary East Subdivision, located east of 2nd Street, north of Hazeldale Road, west of 6th Street, and south of Southern View Park for the Office of Public Works.
Move for approval on the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-016 is an ordinance regarding the variance request of Section 153.158C pertaining to block length in Calvary East Subdivision, located east of 2nd Street, north of Hazeldale Road, west of 6th Street, and south of Southern View Park for the Office of Public Works.
Move to approval on the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-017 is an ordinance approving the location and sketch map for Calvary East Subdivision, located east of 2nd Street, north of Hazeldale Road, west of 6th Street, and south of Southern View Park for the Office of Public Works.
Move to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'm sure Cecilia knows exactly where that is now.
I do, exactly. I know exactly where that is.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-018 is a resolution notifying the State of Illinois Department of Transportation that motor fuel tax funds in the amount of $345,000 may be used to purchase real property for the Carpenter Street Underpass, MFT section number 130047500BR for the Office of Public
Move
Works.
to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-019 is an ordinance authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement with Woodside Township for a new railroad crossing at Stanford Avenue and crossing closures at Truman Road and at 14th Street for the Office of Public
Move
Works.
to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I do have one question. There are a couple businesses that are operated on the other side of Truman Road, Four Seasons and an upholstery repair. Plus, there's also some kind of gravel pit type business over there. What will the access for that be if they're closing this
There will be a
access?
new access to Stanford Avenue, the new extension.
So off of the new Stanford extension will be how that they will access
That's
those
correct.
businesses? Okay, that's the only question I had.
But these won't be closed until the extension's,
Correct.
okay.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-020 is an ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement with Hanson Professional Services Incorporated for preliminary engineering and land acquisition services for the Stanford Avenue extension from Fox Bridge Road to Taylor Avenue in an amount not to exceed $435,930 for the Office of Public Works.
Move to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
2014-021 is a resolution notifying the State of Illinois Department of Transportation that motor fuel tax funds in the amount of $435,930 may be used for preliminary engineering services for the Stanford Avenue Extension Project from Foxbridge Road to Taylor Avenue for the Office of Public Works.
Move to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And Madam Clerk, I have been told that we would like to keep 2014-022 in committee, so I don't even know if you need to read it for that. So unless someone has an alternate motion for this, we will just leave it in committee.
Is there a reason for leaving it in committee?
There are a number of people who are not ready to vote on it. There may be some additional amendments or some other things that are coming up.
You know, we've had the maps for this for 11 months. When do you think those that wish to modify the map will be prepared to offer their suggested changes?
They're working on those now, so in good faith, they're working on those now, and hopefully in 60 days, we'll be ready to do something.
In how many days?
60?
60 days? I disagree. I mean, that we need 60 days to work on this, but unless, that's my opinion. We've had 11 months already.
Is there any unfinished business before this council?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask just a quick technical question to Mr. Greenberg. Are you planning to be here next Tuesday at the council meeting?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other unfinished business for this committee? Under new business, I would like to recognize some old business. Mr. Fred Puglia. I believe this is your last meeting, if not also your last day of employment with the city.
Yes, it is.
So I would like to offer my congratulations and my thanks for your leadership and your time at Convention and Visitors Bureau this time around.
I want to know why he's smiling.
Well, he did get stuck in Rome a little bit longer than planned. We do have one citizen's request. Go ahead.
I've got a question for our communications director, if he could come forward. I know he'll speak. Sure he can. Nathan, thank you. It's come to my attention, I think other aldermen, I got an email, this is always a little pet peeve of mine, through our city server that had come from communications director. Is this a new way we're doing emails that are coming through to aldermen?
It's the same way based on the form that anyone fills out on the city website.
So has it always been past practice that you, as the communication director, sees an email from a constituent that comes to an individual alderman before the alderman gets it?
No, and I don't see them this time either. It may say it's coming from communications director, but I don't usually get them, and I don't believe I saw that one either.
Okay.
Follow-up question. What does that mean, you usually don't see them?
I mean, everything that comes into the city website is there and, you know, can be viewed. I wouldn't, anything that you do on the internet, you know, is public, is stored in some kind of database. So I wouldn't ever put any personal or information that you wouldn't otherwise share with someone in any email.
Let me ask you this. Do I have access to Mayor Houston's correspondence? I mean, if a constituent wants to communicate with Mayor Houston, I take it that no alderman would see that. Now, is there a way to set things up so that you would not have access to the communications as an individual? As the communications director for Mayor Houston, is there a way to set up the communications that the alderman receive from constituents so that, for example, they'd go directly to our city council coordinator, Joe Davis, and bypass the mayor's communications director?
I mean, if you want to list just his email online, that's something, you know, we could consider doing or look into other options.
And that's not my question.
I think the question was more,
Chris, what I asked you the other night. I think, Joe, your question is, well, maybe not, but I think more of Corey's question is if we wanted to have emails that came completely from our constituents privately to us and to us only, we would have to set up a server in Joe Davis's office. It was about $250 a year or something, and then those would be not through the CWLP, those would come strictly through the corporations.
One of the other options we could consider, and this is something that I've mentioned to some of you in the past, is we might consider those of us who have emails set up, webmails or personal email accounts, we could ask them to put them on our page as an alternative to email us directly instead of going through the city. So they could choose either option.
I wasn't done with my question. So my question to you again is, are we using a new system? Because this is the first time, I think several aldermen got an email from Nancy Long in the last day that had your email address forwarding to Joe Davis and Jeanette Bland in the council coordinator's office. So your office is getting our emails before they're coming to us. Yes or no?
Well, in the
It's
last
a simple
week,
yes or no. Yes or no.
I mean, I'm not getting any direct email.
But they're coming to your email address. So a constituent, wait a minute, I'm not finished. So a constituent that is personally emailing me thinking they're emailing a concern to me as their alderman, you're seeing it before I am.
Like I said, I didn't see that email that came through. It's filled, the form fills out and it goes directly
But this
to
is a
Joe
brand
Davis.
new form. That
That's a
I
new
think
form.
everybody around this horseshoe would agree, this is a brand new form.
Yes.
So something has changed in the communications department, yes or no?
Just this week, we changed the form.
Thank you.
Alderman Job, as a small explanation, with some of the automated systems, and this could be whether it's the IRS, whether it's the city council here, whether it's some of the state programs, Cecilia's office when somebody's doing a birth certificate or a death certificate, the server can be set up to set a particular email as the sender or the receipt or the reply to address on that email. Whether that actually ever came to me or to you or to Nate. Now, in the past, I know we have had concerns of people looking at these emails before they came to us. And I think that is the consideration here that is before you, Nathan, is that as communications director, are you looking at the emails that are coming to the alderman before they get forwarded to us?
No, it's never been that practice since I started, working for the city.
Alderman Simpson.
So explain to the person who is totally illiterate in IP.
The IP address for the IT, yes.
Okay, so how, if someone is sending Gail Simpson an email, it goes to you and then you forward it?
It's filled out on the web.
Okay.
site, and it's automatically forwarded to Joe Davis's alderman email that he has set up to use to communicate with you. And it's automatic. It doesn't CC me a copy. It doesn't CC communication director at CWLP a copy.
Okay, so I used to get emails from Jeanette that had Jeanette's email. Why is that changing?
I'm not sure. All the emails still go to that same email account that Joe Davis has set up.
But it never had communications director at CWLP on it before.
Well, we just recently updated the form to allow people to make attachments to that form. And, it was a slight change. And the way the computer works, it may list me as the administrator for the program. And that's why you're seeing it like that. But I'm not CC'd on any of those emails.
And it may seem like something that's very simple and inconsequential and mundane, but I guess you have to understand people's concerns because these are constituent requests and concerns that are coming in, and some of them are, very aimed directly at that alderman, and we would prefer that they not get routed through other individuals prior to us seeing them.
Sometimes it's people complaining about the mayor or other people in the administration. We'd like to give these people the feeling of security. Alderman Edwards?
Is this website, is it still controlled by a third party?
No.
It's strictly city-owned. So if I go type on and I want to communicate to Ward 1 alderman, and they send it to me, I guess I'm like Corey. Why must it go somewhere else before it comes directly wherever the server could route it to, without it having to go somewhere else? I mean, it's a simple question. My email should be attached to my name, and when you hit my name, it goes directly to me without going, and I have mine set up specifically to go to Joe Davis. That's how I choose to set it up. But I have the same concerns as everybody else, is your constituents hitting my name, and it may not be something that they want everybody to see a concern. And now it's routing through a system that really doesn't need to be routed. It's my name. I have a city website address, and that website could dictate, don't go to the director's office once it hits me. It goes directly to Joe Davis or wherever these guys choose that they want their mail routed to. I see no reason for it to go anywhere else other than to where we as the aldermen direct it to go to. Just like the mayor would not want his routed through the alderman's office, or you wouldn't want yours routed through the alderman's office for whatever reason. We take that same stance that it's private to who's ever communicating, or if we want to communicate back and forth to each other through the website, we'd like to have that conversation, feel it's secure. So I'd like to see that addressed, and then before we probably in the budget cycle. It's just a hint, but I would think that would probably go a long way.
Is this on
And
the
I-
same? Yeah, I'll let Nathan respond, and then,
That's something we can, definitely look into and try to figure out what kind of system we can utilize to make everyone's.
Well, it really wasn't a request. It was kind of like, this is what we want done. So it needs to be more than looked at. We'd like to see this where it's routed to a specific alderman, and it goes to that alderman, and they'll route it where they want to route it.
Alderman Job, then Alderman Cantlin.
Just to follow up, it's just this is real stickler. You and I and Joe Davis and Bill Logan met a year ago, and we're still talking about this email. Nothing's been resolved from it, quite honestly. So you're saying now, not a third-party vendor is running, who's hosting our website then? Is our own IT department?
Mm-hmm.
And so did they create this new form then?
I created it.
Okay, all right.
Alderman Cantlin.
Just to clarify, so are you saying it is technically possible to have the website set up so that when a citizen goes on the website to email an alderman, it could go directly from there to the alderman and not to any, third intermediary?
I think so. If you want to list your email, they could email you directly.
Well, not that, no, I'm not saying that. That's another
The answer is
question.
yes, because
No.
it was done prior to last year.
It can be done?
IT used to handle it, it came directly through.
Okay,
Until the website changed, it came directly from our IT department to our office.
Okay, currently, our emails to an alderman from the website go to Joe Davis' office, and then Joe Davis or Jeanette have to manually forward it on to the individual alderman. Is that correct?
Yes.
Using whichever email that alderman prefers.
Yeah. I do have something else on another subject, and new business.
We're going to finish under this topic.
Oh, okay, somebody else had, okay, sure.
Nathan, I guess my biggest concern, kind of along the lines of these guys, is this an active email account, or is this just a dummy account that's set up for routing? Is this something that you can actually log into and look at?
The communications director at
Yes.
CWLP.
Because I've never gotten an email from that. It's always been from your first name dot last name, just like the normal standard and everything else. I want to know if this is an actual email account, or if this is just something that's being used for routing these emails as they come in. How did they program this?
Well, it's an actual email account, but the emails that are, the forms that are filled out on the website, those, it doesn't send a message back to me, for instance, of any data that's entered into the forms that go to Joe Davis.
Okay. I hope you understand, this is not an attack, it's just, it's a concern. And this is one of those things of where I can say honestly, 2 administrations ago, skipping Mayor Edwards across there, when we had the previous administration before that, I had concerns as to what the communications director was looking at on emails that came into me, which was why I created an email address outside of the city, which my emails come to. I had some definite concerns about who was looking at what. And there were some people who were sending me things about other directors, other employees, things that I needed to look into, or that some of the, I'm sure you've gotten similar emails as well. That is where the concern is. It's not an attack per se, it's a concern. And
I will say that since we changed the system, there has been a significant reduction of the number of emails the council receives. Whether that's you guys are doing a better job, I don't know.
so I guess that might be a concern as well as to the total volume of emails. But if you could look into those concerns, work with Joe Davis, let us know, and see if we can come to a resolution.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Sam, you had
Yeah, okay.
another new business. We'll go Alderman Kim and then Alderman Edwards.
Okay, well, thank you, Chairman. Just last week, we had the coldest weather ever this winter, and the people who suffer the worst when the thermometer goes below 0 are our brothers and sisters who are homeless. And this month, we have the opportunity to help those people because there's an insert in our CWLP bills for the Roundup program, and that's where if you fill, many people have already done this, but if you haven't already, if you fill this insert out in and send it in with your bill payment for your January bill, then your future bills be rounded up to the next dollar, and the additional amount goes into a fund that's used to help agencies and organizations that help the homeless. So it really would be great if we could get more and more people. I know many people already are signed up, but if we could double it or increase it in any way, that would be great. So watch out for this insert in your bill this month. Thank you.
Alderman Edwards.
Yeah, I was going to try and catch Nathan while he was up here. I got a call about and I kind of looked through the budget book and didn't see it, but do you have an assistant? Do you have an assistant? I mean, I looked through the budget book and I kind of told the person no, but I got a couple phone calls saying you have an assistant, and I can name him, I guess, if you want me to, but...
Well, there's been an intern that's been working in the mayor's office in the communications department, and recently he's been brought on part-time to help with the development of the ARIA computer system.
So, I thought that was CWLP's expertise.
Well, he will be doing the data entry and other development with us, building that system.
What kind of data entry?
He'll be working in administrative court and legal. You can help me answer exactly what kind of data he's going to be entering during those sessions, so that the treasurer's office and legal, the mayor's office, the goal is to at any time know exactly how much any citizen is owed to the city.
How much what?
How much any citizen is owed at any time to the city.
So, why would that fall under your purview? It seems to me that would fall under the treasurer's responsibility on who owes what to the city. I'm just bringing it up here.
Alderman Edwards, I'll help the communications director. When we had some meetings on ARIA, and they were trying to figure out how to get data in police court of the tickets and the current amount due on a police ticket, so that if an individual came into court and walked downstairs to the treasurer's window, that the treasurer's office would have the ability to tell them how much they actually owed, because the systems don't talk. And at the time, they're in the early steps of development. And right now, there's no way to get the information out of the back end of legal system that we've been using since the 90s into what they're doing with ARIA. We had a meeting, we said we don't have the staff in legal right now to do any entry in court. And it was proposed that Nathan's intern would come into court. They are not touching a legal file and they are not touching our legal program because they're not a member of our office. They're looking at the public records that are part of the public files that you could get from the city clerk or you would be handed in court. And they're updating the information right now. We should be doing it in full whatever for the February court date for police tickets. So the treasurer's office would then get an updated information on the ARIA system so their people could go to the people who had just been in court and pull up accurate data on what they owe. It's in the very early stages.
So was this job posted, or how do we end up just?
This is only a temporary position that he'll be filling until we can develop the system, whereas his duties will no longer be needed. And it is not anticipated that he will spend any more than 6 months as a temporary employee.
I got one more, Chairman, if I might.
Go ahead.
I got a couple homeowners associations that have called me, and I had a guy call me that lives in Florida, part-time, 6 months of the year, and it was about the $1.50. Now, the question was, as a homeowners association, they pay their homeowners association, and that includes their garbage pickup. And they're not afforded any recycling services at all. But yet they're charged $1.50. Is there anything we can talk about or do, or somebody that's on vacation for 6 months and they're being, their services on whatever service, however they do that?
Well, and we're still working through something because it just went on the bill in January. Hear me? But some of those, we've received some of those calls, and there's some confusion because people think it's a charge for the garbage. But even in those situations, they're still able to access some of those services. The large item, the hazardous waste, the recycling, we're working through some of that because we had situations where people were on commercial accounts. I know Twin Lakes was one of those, and their haulers at one point were charging them extra for the recycling. If they're paying that $1.50, they have access to recycling, and they should be receiving it if they want it. So there's a number of services that even if they are a separate homeowner association paying separate fees, that they get access to that $1.50.
So I can tell the homeowner association to come to you and you're going to give them money?
No, I'm saying they can access the city services just like everybody else.
So even if they don't have garbage pickup, they'll still get some services, I mean?
Correct, yeah, I mean, even if they're paying garbage, what you're saying, I think is they probably have a commercial account and the garbage is covered in their whatever homeowner association fee. But recycling, large item, hazardous waste, and in some cases we have situations where there's these homeowner association and they may take their leaves to the wherever location where we still pick them up. They haul them down to Evans Recycling during the fall and spring.
I think that's what this guy said he's doing. He says, I make a weekly trip to the Lake Erie disposal, the recycling bins on his own.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to. Have them give us a call and we'll work through it with them. So, and we've started getting a few of those calls. Most of them went pretty well. Most of it is just they explained to them why it's on their utility bill and making sure it's not on their garbage bill if they were being charged before. But we've had situations just like you described. We're trying to work through explaining the services they can access. So I feel free to give my name, have them give me a call, or afterwards I can get the number and call them.
Okay. All right.
Okay. If there are no further items for new business, we do have one person who signed up to speak this evening, Mr. Bruce Clark. Are you still here? Okay. Any other citizens' requests to address this committee?
I did have one quick question, Mr. Chairman. Nathan, are the budget hearings in committee being broadcast?
No.
Neither is committee?
Oh, committee tonight.
Committee is supposed to be on?
The budget was on? All right, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we will reconvene in 5 minutes to start the budget hearing.
Budget working out.